Motorcycle Adventure Dirt Bike TV, supported proudly by Adventure Spec in the UK, Rally Raid Products, Giant Loop in the United States, Adventure Moto in Australia, Pirelli tyres, Motul Oils, RK Chains and Australian Adventure Bike magazine.
Okay, Clubby's got his camera. Got to do some work now. Come on, little Honda.
It was about a year ago since Andrew Clubb, the editor of Australian Adventure Bike magazine, and I tested the mighty Honda CRF300L Rally. We certainly gave it a workout, and the first thing we found was the suspension was way too soft for our bigger bodies. But apart from that, the bike impressed us. Handling was good, the Honda engine was bulletproof, it could skip along at highway speeds courtesy of an overdrive 6 gear. It had an old style frame that made it easy to bolt on accessories. It was comfortable and had a long fuel range. And finally, it was light to throw around. We both longed to do a bike build on this magic little red rooster that we firmly believed would become an adventure dragon slayer. Clubby and I aimed to spend no more than 30% of the cost of the bike during the build. I'm pretty sure we're not going to achieve that goal, but let's see how we go. By our reckoning, we've got about $4,000 Australian to spend. Our first step is getting the suspension sorted, and I've turned to John Mitchinson of Rally Raid Products UK, who's been a long-time sponsor and supporter of Mad TV. He's produced a number of suspension kits and components for the Honda that provide a large range of alternatives for riders of different sizes and skill sets. Imported into Australia and professionally fitted, you're looking at around $2,800 for the Level 2 250mm kit. So I guess we've almost blown our budget before we start, but as we've always known, once the suspension is sorted, it raises this bike to another level.
Mate, exciting times.
It is. The Professor's Workshop. Always going to be a little magic every time we go into the Professor's Workshop. So we've got a date today with Clive up at Motorcycle Biz HQ with the little red rooster, the CRF300 Rally. It's going to get a new set of what? Arms and legs?
Yep.
Do roosters have arms, mate? I don't know. But no, suspension. Date with Destiny with the Rally Raid components, isn't it? So we've got fork internals and an entire new rear shock, don't we, to go into the little red rooster. But I know the Professor, like, you love the Professor, right? Technically minded, analytical, the shock dyno, the fork dyno, the micrometers, the vernier calipers, the nitrogen bottles. He's got everything, every trick of the tool of the trade. But you know what I reckon's the best barometer of all, Dave, on this bike? You know what's going to happen today? I call it the Oingo Boingo test.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Your tight little butt cheeks are going to get straight on the 300 as soon as it comes out of the van this morning. And we're going to do the pre-Oingo Boingo test, aren't you?
Yes.
All right, and I predict you will almost be able to get the rear guard to touch the rear tyre when we do the highly scientific Oingo Boingo test. And then I reckon a couple of hours later, when the Professor's done with all his voodoo and his magic, there'll be no more rear guard touching the rear tyre in the Oingo Boingo test, mate. So, yeah, it'll be a good day. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what the Professor does, to get the gist from him with what Rally Raid, more importantly, have done to the fork and the shock components. And then, when we can finally get outside, ride the bike, and put it to the real seat of the pants Oingo Boingo test then, can't we, in the bush, mate? So, no, it'll be a good day.
Long live the Oingo Boingo. We're nearly there. Come on, mate, get out of the car. I can't wait any longer. Let's go.
Oh, Professor.
Clubby.
Latest job's on board, son.
Hey.
Good to see you again, mate.
Boys, what do we got?
It's only a little one, this one.
It's a little
Trust
one.
me.
We've got a special test we've got to do at the beginning, though.
Yes, we do.
Yes, look at that. Come on. Look at this. Show him this one.
What's
Show
in
him
that
this
one, Prof? More.
But wait, there's more.
Oh, forks. Ooh.
That's
They
what
look
we
fast.
want. Side stand, we need that because it gets taller. The bike suddenly gets taller.
Springs, fork springs.
Couple of fork springs. Goes from 1 to 2 fork springs too. Look at that. Come in the sun, boys. Come in the sun so I can see. Look at this.
4.2.
Yeah, we're going to measure it.
We'll see what they are.
Yep.
We've got a new test, Clive.
Yeah.
Clubby's developed it. It's called the Oinga Boinga test.
Oh yeah.
Out she comes. The red rooster. She's out. Alright, first test, Clubby. Oinga Boinga. Yeah, look at that.
I think you just used 2/3 of the travel, Dave.
Yeah. Alright, we'll show him the Oinga Boinga test. You reckon that's soft? You wait and see this. What's this? This is our Oinga Boinga test. Ready?
Now, does that rear guard touch the rear tyre, Prof? How close does he get? Oh, that was close.
Here she goes. She's in. Is she on the ramp? Oh, she's on the remedial. She doesn't even get a ramp at this stage. So you reckon the static sag's out a bit, Clive?
I think all the sag will be out. 64 mil of static sag.
That's with no one on it. Oh, that's 136 with you.
With no gear on.
136 with no gear. Here, get me on. Here, we'll have a weight test.
Clubby.
Clubby, come here and do some filming. Come make yourself useful. We'll see if I'm heavier than Clive. You reckon? Well, no, we will be able to. Here, just put that on there. Hang on. Here, you need to watch it so you can see the number go up. So Clive was 136. What do you reckon I'll be?
236, Dave.
I think it's got that much travel.
138.
138. Another 2 centimetres lost.
Around the belt line and on the weight line.
No, it's the other way around.
Alright, yep,
All right.
that was it. Camera doesn't lie.
There's not much travel left. It's not... That's 47. It went up to 69 then. 57 now. Oh God, went to 83 for you. What have we got,
Put it
Cody?
on the pig.
81. 87.
There you go. He's got his ruler out. Things are serious.
I'll explain to you sag. So the total travel of this suspension in the fork is 230 mil. So where my thumb is. When you sat on the bike, you use 87 mil of it. So that leaves you that much to go. On the shock, it was even worse. On the shock, you got 260 mil. Once you were sitting on it, you had gone up to 136 mil. So now you're almost halfway through the suspension before you've hit a bump. So instead of having this much travel to absorb a bump, you're down to here. So you've already used this much of it just sitting still. By the time you hit a bump, you're going to drive through to the bottom really quickly. So the idea of getting the sag correct is to get the bike up to the right point, so you're the right part of the way through the stroke. The springs are set and ready to hold the weight and to control the bounce of the bike. The second part is the dampening. So you can't fix a spring problem with dampening, you can't fix a dampening problem with springs. This is a dampening problem. There's insufficient rebound, so it responds too fast, and insufficient compression dampening, so it bounces down too quick. It's almost like there's no oil in the shock and it's just responding to the spring. No doubt we'll fix this with the rally race shock. They'll dampening will be much more correct, and we'll see a huge change when we put this back together.
Looking forward to this, Clive. Yeah, so we've got the tall suspension kit. There's two different rally raid kits. We've got the tall one. For shorter riders, there's a shorter kit, but we went with the the tall kit.
Yes, it's the Rally Raid 250mm travel kit, which is going to be slight reduction in the rear, slight increase in the front, because these are, according to Honda specs, 260 in the rear, 234 in the front.
Yeah.
And the level 1 kit from Rally Raid is 210mm travel, so 40mm less. So that would probably keep it at this height that it is now.
Yeah, prior to you sitting on it.
Yeah, once the suspension's actually installed and damped and set and calibrated correctly. The new kit should bring it to about that height, I would say.
Right. God, Clubby, doesn't this warm your heart? I mean,
Oh,
here we
it's
are.
always good to see the spanners being spun by a professional.
It's
That's
not
what
only
I like about coming to the professor's shed each time.
I'm like a 2-year-old at the first Christmas day. Clive's doing his magic. Already we can see the battery. We've never seen that before.
Right over there. Where's the air filter?
We've got to find that air filter one of these days.
Alright, can't believe I'm doing this, but Clubby, please come here and hold this ratchet.
Oh, how hard do you want me to turn on it? Like,
Hold it, mate.
no,
You just hold it.
I can reef on it pretty good, I reckon. It's in my right hand.
God, Clubby's got a
Hold it,
tool in
stop
his
it
hand.
spinning.
Oh. You know when a hex head feels like butter? Is that what this is meant to feel like? Did I just turn that the wrong way? No. Lefty, loosey, righty, tighty?
She's off.
Oh, do I let go now?
Yeah, let go now.
Clive's breathing a sigh of relief.
Oh, did he just hit something? Did he just hit?
Ah, there it is. It's the culprit. Yeah, just.
Wait.
Well, we won't be dyno testing the rear shock because we can't get the spring off it. But here's the Rally Raid one, so we're certainly going to put this through the ringer on the dyno. First job is to get the spring off. So what we're doing is we're dyno testing the Rally Raid shock. So Clive, run us through, give me a 1 minute summary of what dyno testing does.
It attempts to simulate real life experience in the workshop so that we can take measurements. So what we've got is a 3 horsepower electric motor in the back here, a Scotch yoke which is going to drive the shock up and down through 40mm of travel, with a load sensor that's going to measure the load applied to it, and we'll be able to run it through a whole series of speeds and see how the damping performs through that range.
Now this is bike porn, isn't it?
Shock porn.
Shock porn. What's the verdict, Clive?
Yeah, it looks good. So it's pulling just on 3,500 newtons of rebound at half a metre a second and 1,500 newtons of compression dampening. Almost linear line. Maybe a little bit too much here. I might just open it a couple of clicks and re-measure it.
So what's that on the bottom? That's
Rebound adjustment.
Yeah.
It's the only adjustment you got on this shock other than preload.
Oh.
There's no compression adjustment. So I took 2 clicks out of the rebound and set it at 12 out instead of 10 out.
Yeah.
And it smoothed that line out right here
Right.
and reduced it all the way through the range by roughly 5 to 8%, I'd say.
Right. So the clickers work.
The clicker definitely works, and that's only 2 clicks, so it's pretty sensitive.
Okay. So when we start adjusting, if we do, we just take our time, just little bits.
1 or 2 clicks at a time, yeah.
Yep. What do you reckon the Oinga Boinga test is going to reveal?
I reckon it's going to send you into the ceiling, mate. With any luck. You won't even get anywhere near that rear tyre now.
I will wind the adjuster all the way out, surprising.
Yeah, give him a shock.
Yeah.
Shock him with a shock.
because you'll compare that with the next one.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to have a chat.
You can see the big tyres difference in the cartridge.
Huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what does that turn into? Tell me what that means.
More oil, more flow, more control.
Right. So this side didn't have a spring, is it? This is the rebound side, isn't it?
This is the entire dampening side. The other side is spring only.
Right.
And now we're converting it to spring on both sides, but it will still only have dampening in the left leg.
Right. You want volunteers? Clubby, you volunteer for this.
Oh yeah, power tool. Oh, power tool jobs?
No,
Yeah.
you can't. No. All right, come on, no.
Right hand or left hand for the...
Keep away from the power tools.
Oh.
All right, Clive, what are you doing? They got a jig. All right.
So there's a clip we've got to get out of the top of the tube to get the spring out.
All right.
And John's developed this jig. He was telling me about it the other day. So it comes with the kit. You push this into place, hold that in and push it down.
Yeah.
And that's going to allow us to drill at the right point through the tube so that we can push a tool through there and flick the clip out.
All right.
So this is the process.
Oh, it's through. He's through the skull.
I think we're through.
That's good. The drill's no shorter than it was, so that's good. All we need now is a drill bit to snap off.
No, we don't need that, Dave.
Pumping the oil into the sucker. How much oil does it take, Clive?
500 mil.
500.
So putting together the spring side fork.
Mm.
We've put the OEM white spacer back in, the new black spacer that's provided, the new spring that's provided, spring washer, and now the preload adjuster assembly. Slide all that down in there. Proper circuit with holes in it. And she's in.
So Clubby, for our first rendition of tyres, we're going for a full-on dirt. Scorpion, mid-hard, XCs.
Sounds appropriate.
Yeah.
110 by 118. You don't want a big tyre on that little bike, do you? So that's perfect, mate, eh? Have you used it before, Dave?
Yes,
You have?
excellent, good tyre, great tyre in the dirt.
Yep.
But it's really not meant for too much road, as you can see. But
Yeah, it seems like a more pure off-road tyre, eh?
yeah, but I thought for our first run with this CRF that we'd do that.
What's going on? It's too...
Hey mate, how you going? So there you go. Because we've pumped up the suspension, just got to make that side stand a bit longer. And that's a replacement, this one on the right. Yep, because the bike will stand up so much taller. No, there it is, it's down. This is like Christmas, Clubby. Here we go.
Right.
Come on, Clive, what are you thinking, mate? What are you thinking? Don't say anything. You're not obliged to say anything.
I might incriminate myself.
There it goes. It rolls off. All right. Oh, this is interesting.
Ooh.
Much better.
Wow.
Boinga test time. Oh, gee, she's
Can you get your leg over that?
I was going to say it's certainly.
A bit taller.
It's going to be a bit taller. Yeah. Look at that. Oh, Clubby.
There's daylight. I can see daylight under that rear guard now.
Look at that. Mate, that is a big improvement on where we were a couple of hours ago.
Not like it was when it rolled in here.
Hey?
Not at all. Here we go. Let's get some dimensions going.
So that's a static of 20 now.
It's a lot more healthier.
Pop on that again, Dave, and we'll see
Yeah.
what you
There you go.
speed up on the pegs. 85.
That's in it, isn't it?
Spot on. And you
Spot
haven't got
on.
your gear in that on yet, so yep.
Yeah. You can tell already it feels good.
And that's the longest stand too. So.
Yeah.
Yes, you can wheel it better. It won't stop though.
It won't stop with that ABS. Yeah. The ABS on the front wheel is horrible.
Just skidded all the way along there. But it doesn't dive like it would have before. Feels good.
Oh,
Yeah.
mate.
Yeah, it feels really good.
So what do you think of the handling of this now, Clive?
Felt good, yeah. Didn't take it for a real big run, but there's a bit of dirt and a couple of bumps and a bit of a jump up there, so I had a bit of a spin around that, and yeah, feels good.
Well done. Well done.
It should be a bit of fun to play with, for sure.
Oh, mate, this is our mini adventure tourer. Well, welcome to Mad TV. We've finished the build with Clive Ward of Motorcycle Biz, and now it's question time. So I'll just go through this for you, Clive. You have absolutely no idea about what we're going to ask, but you'll be right. Trust me.
I'm nervous.
You're nervous. Question time. For those interested in the Honda CRF300 Rally suspension setup, and I've just told them it's on next week. There are 28 questions, and here we go. Interested in suggested hardware and settings for the Rally Raid carrying a combined rider and luggage of 150 kilograms?
Going to have to look at the chart to see what the spring rates are, but they're quite clear on their system what the chart
Yes, so
gives
that's what
for
they've got to
weights.
do.
Yeah.
They've got to go to the chart to get the spring rate.
To order the right spring rate.
All
That's
right.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear exactly what the benefits of upgraded suspension are and the type of rider it's for. I've been finding the stock suspension is quite functional. I'm on my L's and just ride easier trails at the moment. Jumping small erosion mounds hasn't bottomed it out yet. They must be as light as a feather. I do notice on looser ground, particularly in corners, I feel uncertain as the level of grip, and it goes on and on. That's from Defector.
Well, a suspension upgrade would be for anyone, novice or advanced, but the advanced are probably going to feel the most out of it because they'll be riding it harder. You're going to get the right dampening, the right spring rate, you're going to get it sitting up at the correct height, and that'll correct all the geometry, which will make it steer better and provide better confidence to the rider, as with all suspension upgrades really, personalised to suit.
So, Dale T. Alaplayer, how does stronger suspension impact the subframe, especially carrying extra weight? And a couple of people like that question.
It won't impact the subframe at all. In fact, it will protect the subframe because you'll have longer travel in suspension, the correct rate springs, so it's less likely to bottom when you jump or hit a G out or a big square edge. If you do that with the stock suspension, it does bottom, the force then drives up through the subframe or bends the bolt on the top of the shock or something along those lines.
So it's
the
actually
suspension's failed. Once it's bottom, it's not doing anything anymore. All the load goes somewhere, it doesn't stop. So it keeps passing up through the frame and eventually up into the rider themselves.
Right. Rory Singer, as a 75-year-old rider wondering about Rally Raid's reduced travel shock and fork kit, I'm 82 kilograms dripping wet. Ride my Rally as a true dual sport, no hardcore off-road. Can you comment on this option and correct spring rate? Thanks, Rory.
So again, spring rate will be stated on the chart on the website. So you look at your weight and what you're carrying and pick your spring from there. The level 1 option is not to lower the bike, but to keep the bike at the original OEM height, because when we took the stag measurements before, the bike was sitting right down, sort of way down here.
Yeah.
Now we've put the correct spring rates in with this suspension. It's sitting 2 inches, 40 mil higher than it would have been. The level 1 kit will keep it back down at the original height that it was with the 4 springs and sagged and everything like that. So,
which is better for shorter riders.
yeah, absolutely. If you want to, better than doing that than lowering it.
Yeah. The next one, Yorkshire Lad Rides. I've got the Rally Raid fork kit to fit, having already installed the rear shot. Looking forward to the install video and some tips on the settings. Some other people are doing the install video. We haven't really focused in any detail on the install, just done some dyno measurements and that. So I think you'll have to wait. There's another video coming out. SP3, I'd be interested on the impact of just changing to the correct springs for the rider and how it rides with the standard damping. He says that's the cheapest option.
So what we discovered with the stock shock spring, it can't be replaced.
No.
So you can't do anything with the shock. And I'm not sure if there are any springs available for the stock forks to upgrade them to a next size spring, because it's a single spring in one side.
I hate to go live, but where is that shot? Because that was interesting.
So over here in that box.
In that box, I'll just quickly bring it out. Come back to here. So you can't change the spring.
So normally this piece here would be split. We'd put it in the spring compressor, compress it, slide them out, and the spring would come out the top. They've fully sealed it.
Yeah.
And then you can't remove the top. We tried to wind it off the thread. It won't come off the thread, so you can't remove it that way. The only way you would be able to replace the spring would be to degas it and try and get the clevis off it, but then you wouldn't be able to gas it or oil it back up or bleed it when you put the new spring on.
No.
So really it's a throwaway item.
Yeah.
It serves
Just got to get a new shock.
new shock. Yeah, there's nothing we can do with it.
And this business about just changing the springs, you can't do the springs on the rear and the front. Would that make any difference doing it on the front, Clive, and not on the back?
Oh, it would definitely help. It would raise the front, but I'm not sure whether we can actually buy a spring for it, because the stock one is a single spring on one side in a strange size. I'm not sure if there's any aftermarket springs available for it. We'd have to investigate that.
John Mitchinson, I'm so glad to have you on Mad TV. You've been a long-term supporter and sponsor of everything we do, but I couldn't help but think it's our 10-year reunion of working together.
Yeah, 10-year anniversary, Dave. We must get some for that. Yeah.
We should. I don't know what it is, but over here, here's Martin and you working on my KTM 690 before we rode from London to Sydney.
That's right. That was when you came with Darren and we first built the bikes 690, the first tank kits, the Evo 2, yeah.
That's right. So this goes back. This was done about, that photo was taken about, I don't know, 10 days before we left. I think we left on the 1st of July. So we've got our 10-year anniversary. But since that time, you know, you and I have worked together very closely on a number of projects where I've assisted with R&D and promotion of what you do. I'll just go through this esteemed list for a minute. There's the CBX 500. There's the BMW 310 GSA. There's the great success on the T700. And now the little red rooster, the Honda CRF300. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we took the bike up to Clive Ward's up at Motorcycle Biz to get the suspension done. But let's talk about it in its initial form, because when we bounce that up and down, that has almost no damping whatsoever. It's like a little pogo stick and it just goes boinga. So Clubby and I have named it the boinga boinga test, where we just get on it and jump up and down. So we fitted the level 2 fork kit, which is that's for 250 mils of travel. And I'd have to say, I think to fit that, a lot of your customers are fitting it themselves. You've got to be reasonably handy on the tools to fit that, but you provide everything to fit it. So give us a bit of a rundown on it.
Well, on the fork kit, we sort of developed that because, like you said, as soon as you sit on the standard bike, you can just feel it blow through the stroke, even with just a rider, let alone before you start tackling any terrain. So the first thing I did, the shock's relatively straightforward to do. It's a straightforward rising rate linkage, but the forks were a lot more difficult for a couple of reasons. One was the fact that a lot of the manufacturers, oh, pardon me.
Oh, it hit me.
The COVID, yeah. The
bloody COVID. You've just said it to me.
Yeah. The fact that a lot of the manufacturers now are going to save costs, they're tending just to put one cartridge in one leg and a spring in the other for compression and top out, which obviously saves them money. And the Honda is it's a budget bike. So we were sort of limited because most of the bikes we've done before, well, in fact, all of them, that they've always had, 2 springs, 2 dampers. So the CRF, the first thing I did was, disassemble the whole standard fork, get an idea of what was in there. It's a very small cartridge in the left leg and no spring, and a weak spring in the right leg with a top out spring. So luckily the T7 cartridge kit, it's a massive cartridge we did, it just fitted in because they're both 43mm. It was amazing. Yeah. So, in a weekend, I'd modified one of the T7 cartridges to work to a fashion.
Yeah.
And used a T7 spring and the other leg, and managed to get out and ride it and think, well, yeah, we're going the right way now. And wow. We probably spent 4 or 5 months developing that, but it was quite a new thing for us to do it in one cartridge, and a new thing for Tractive because they've always done 2 cartridges. So to convince them that having a single cartridge, was going to be good enough, that took a bit of persuading. But they, we went over to Holland with the bike with my developments, and they rode it, and they could see we were going down the right path. And you never want to turn the CRF into an enduro bike anyway. It's not where it's at. We're not trying to turn that CRF300 into a CRF450L or anything. It's a great, cheap travel bike that you could, for solo travel, it's great. I mean, I'm working my way around Spain and Portugal with mine, and solo with a bit of soft luggage, it ticks all the boxes. So yeah, that's what we did, was to try and make a fork kit that reflected the type of riding that most people would be doing.
Yeah, I mean, the Honda CRF300, from the time we tested it, which was more than a year ago now, we saw that it had fantastic potential. It didn't need much. The steering geometry's right, the handling's right, the protection's right. There's so much with that bike, and the reliability, this bulletproof little engine. It's got everything going for it. For us, it just, the primary focus for us has been suspension, and fortunately you came along. So if you're reasonably handy on the tools, you'd be able to fit this suspension.
Yeah. I mean, we've deliberately designed it so there's no changing of the fork leg parts externally. You pretty much just throw everything away inside. So you take the whole cartridge, the fork caps out the left leg, that goes, and the same with the right leg. You throw away all the top out spring arrangement, the fork cap, the compression spring. So all you keep in the right leg is a plastic spacer, and all you reuse in the left leg is an M8 bolt with a copper washer. We supply completely new parts that are all pre-assembled, so that cuts out a lot of the worry. Yeah. And then the only really tricky bit is on the right leg. When Honda assemble the bike at the factory, they put a very small wire clip in there, which is virtually impossible to get out. It's made like that. It's sort of tamper-proof. So the only really 100% way of getting it out was to just drill a small 1.5mm hole through the side of the inner fork tube, and then just pop it out from the outside in. And that works successful. But to do that, it's really important where you drill the hole in relation to the clip. So we supply a small aluminium drill jig that slips over the fork leg, yeah, and another one to press down the tapered steel washer underneath. And works well. So if you're fairly competent and confident, and there's going to be some videos out there, then we've got full instructions. I think you can do it. If you're unsure, then there's plenty of suspension places that'll do it for you. Or
you could mix and match. I mean, the rear suspension most people could do, and the forks, is take the forks to a suspension specialist, and they could do them for you. What was interesting when we started, when we took the rear shock out, is you just can't replace the spring on that. it's just locked. Like you just throw it away. Because, you know, a lot of people are saying, oh, I'll just get a stronger rear spring. Well, you can't, because the shock is not designed to even take the spring off. It's crazy.
No, you can, if you really wanted to, Dave, you can.
Yeah,
but all you're going to do, because the spring is so soft and the damping is so bad,
yeah,
it actually, putting a stiffer spring actually exaggerates the problem, because then,
like a pogo stick. Yeah,
you know, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So you can put a stiffer spring, which corrects the sag when you're sat on the bike. But then when you compress the bike, the stiffer spring is just going to fire you back. And no, we really didn't even bother with the shock. I mean, the T7, that was okay. The rear shock on the T7 wasn't bad. It was just undersprung. So, and you had adjustment. It's a piggyback shock, so you've got adjustment on the damping. But on the Honda, it's underdamped, and with no adjustment at all, you're actually just going to create a whole new problem by fitting a stiffer spring. So we drew a blank on that straight away.
So as we're talking now, I'm overdubbing that with some great examples of that where Clive's pushing on it and I'm jumping on the bike. Now, the other thing is Juan and Jenny have done a great assembly video, an install video. And for those who are purchasing this kit, that the link to that will be at the end of this video. So if you want a detailed step-by-step instruction guide to installing this suspension, the Rally Raid product suspension, you will find that at the end of this video. So there was a couple of other things I wanted to talk about, and it's a very familiar theme with this bike from my audience, and that is, well, you know, I'm really short, and I'm concerned that the level 2 cartridge system is just too high for me. And I know you've got a level 1 shock, and that puts the height of the bike to 210 mil of travel, which would be where it sits now, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing that we found, Dave. It was, we very quickly made a rear shock to give us the correct sag. And the bike's got, you know, in theory, it has got 250 mil of travel from new, but in practice, you lose over 100 mil just sitting on the bike.
Yeah.
Once we made a new shock and once we got the spring rate right, the first thing I noticed, because I'm not that tall, is that I struggled to get on the bike, you know, because by correcting the rider sag and static sag, you straight away, you're lifting the seat height around about 40 millimeters, an inch and a half, which for a lot of people, that's a deal breaker. I mean, the reason that they probably bought the bike is it is easy to get on and off, but unfortunately, the reason it's easy to get on and off is because it's so soft. So we decided to, as well as do the 250 mil travel, we said, well, we'll do a shorter travel so that you have better suspension, but still retain the OEM seat height that you had with the Porsche suspension.
Yeah, so I'll make you laugh. I mean, I ride a lot of different bikes. I'd say to you at the level 2 cartridge, which is the 250 mil of travel, when I'm standing on that, I'm on the balls of my feet, right? Which is equivalent to being on a Norden 900 with the taller suspension. It's similar to my Husky 701. So, you know, we have, as you warned us, you said, Dave, if you go for the 250 mil, you know, it's going to be tall. Clubby and I are about the same height, so it suits us perfectly. But I mean, it's a really important point we make to consumers, both of us now, is that lifts that up and it becomes a very tall bike. If you don't want that, then for goodness sake, go to the level 1 shock, which is at 210 mils of travel. And the performance difference isn't that much, is it?
No, I've always said it's better to have 210 mil of good suspension than 250 mil of poor suspension.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm riding the 210 mil travel. I haven't cased it out and I've been testing the bike. I've even tested it with 210 mil travel and lowering link. and then 210 mil travel and our lower wheels. And because the bike starts off with good ground clearance anyway, you can afford to lose a bit. It's not like when we were doing the CB500X and the G310, they haven't got that really big gap under the engine.
No.
So you're always aware that if you lose a bit of suspension travel or bit of lowering link, you're always potentially got the problem you can case the motor out, you know, on the engine guard. Whereas the CRF, you're miles away. It's got so much daylight under the engine. Because it is a trail bike first and foremost. Then you can afford to put the level 1 suspension. You can afford to put a lowering link on, and it's still miles away from casing out.
So that's the thing. I mean, for really vertically challenged people or females that really want to be very stable and have their feet both on the ground solidly, not only can you go for the 210, but then you can reduce it further with a lowering link. And then if you're really tiny and you want to be really comfortable, you could put a small wheel set on it as well to take it even lower.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was once we made the level 1 suspension and I test rode it with a lowering link. Yeah, I did a lot of riding. I really enjoyed riding it, and actually on the road, I prefer the level 1 suspension because it's not as top heavy. Well, not top heavy, but it lowers the center of gravity. So you can, on the back roads, you can really, and then it got me thinking, you know, like I've ridden like the old Yamaha Soros and CRF230s, and there's still loads of people riding around on 25, 30-year-old Yamaha Soros, and they're not riding 30-year-old bikes because they want to. It's just all the modern bikes are too tall. So I thought, right, you know, let's see if we can make a sort of modern day Soro. And so we did. We made a trial set of 19-inch front and 17-inch rear, and it's a real lovely fun bike to ride. And the other thing is, as soon as you go to a 19-17 wheel combination, you're then straying away from full-on enduro trail tires. It opens up a real good range of adventure trail tires, and I'd say for people that are doing long trips and they're not doing hardcore riding, or someone that wants a much more dual sport, that the low wheel option, you know, is the one to get, because it you know, you're just going to open up a lot more pleasure in the road work and the easy trails, especially if you're short in the leg, you know.
So just coming back to the taller kit, you've got to make sure too that you get a longer side stand, and I'd imagine anyone who's purchasing that, you'd give them a prompt that they need the longer side stand, or the bike will just fall over.
That's right. Yeah, I found that as soon as we went to the 250mm travel, well, kept the 250mm travel with our suspension, because the sag is less. Instead of the bike, instead of it being as upright, then as soon as you've got the taller suspension, the bike's leaning over more. So yeah, we developed a longer side stand, and then we also developed a shorter side stand for the people that are lowering the bikes.
So you're the, you know, so we're making this, Honda Australia have given us this bike for a long-term test. You're the first place we came in terms of suspension. We thought the biggest investment for the best return was with Rally Raid. You know, we've done a lot of work together, and my T7 is absolutely sorted. And it looks like, I mean, I haven't ridden the CRF in the bush yet, but it feels like it's going to be an absolute ripper. But we've still got some more to do in terms of the development. We've got to, you know, it's the little things. We're not going to go too ballistic. We're going to get some bark busters. We're having a look at soft luggage. I noticed when I was stalking you on Facebook there, you were using giant loop. I think you use the Mojave bag, do you, on the back?
If I'm in the UK, just for a couple of days, I use the Mojave. But for my trip around Spain and Portugal, it's sort of 9,000 kilometre trip. So I'm doing it in 10-day stints. Yeah. So I'm running the bigger Coyote because I've got not so much for clothes, but in the bottom of the Coyote, I put all my heavy tools, Dave, so you keep the weight low.
Keep them low. Yeah.
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 It fits the bike perfectly, the size, you know. The big one, the Great Basin, is too big for that bike, you know, but the Coyote just suits it perfectly, you know, just with a rear rack to attach the hooks to. I can have all my clothes and tools and spare inner tubes in there, no problem.
Well, as you know, I mean, Giant Loop has been they came on board as a sponsor for me at about the same time as you did. So we'll be knocking on Harold's store in Giant Loop to make sure we get that bag for the bike, and then we're going to get out and hammer it and go for a decent adventure on it. So Nugget's looking forward to riding it. And he sends his regards.
Yeah, we'll do him some special lower in roofer links.
Yeah, some special roofer links. Yeah. Well, John Mitchinson, I think we've covered everything we need to talk about. Oh, there's one more thing, and that's the hydraulic preload you've got for this bike.
That's right. That was after we developed both types of shock and fork kit. We started selling a few shocks to people in the UK, because we've actually had our bikes here for 18 months now. You know, our first bike now is out in Spain and Portugal, and that's really clocking up the miles. But I know you guys
haven't got them.
And Jenny and Wan have only just got their bikes. So we had about a 12-month head start here in Europe. So once we started selling them, people were coming to the factory, and we were taking on some early adopters where we were fitting the kits just to do instructions. And we were quite surprised how many people were experienced riders, and they bought the bike because it is cheap, it's low stress, they're going on long trips on their own. And these aren't new riders or lady riders. These are very mature, experienced, and they know they don't want to go on a trip on a big 250 kilo bike with luggage. And of course, one of the things was that, you know, jumping on and off the bike with luggage and without luggage, they'd got used to coming off the bigger bikes. They had got used to having either electric preload adjustment or hydraulic preload like you get on the T7. So I just because basically the shock is the same it's the same piston size, same body as a T7 one that we do. So we just took a hydraulic preload adjuster, modified it, and we had it on that afternoon, you know, on the CRF, which was something we never thought about in the first instance. But actually, once we realized that the sort of demographic, you know, Honda would say it's a beginner's bike, or it's and that's not the case. What we're finding is that these are people that are looking to do a big trip off with a lot of off-road, and actually they've come to the terms that they don't want to do it on a 790 or a 1200 or whatever, you know.
It's an interesting point you raise. I mean, I've ridden a number of bikes lately where the PR people put a spin on a bike, and they say this is what it is. And from the second that Clubby and I rode this bike, we really rated it because we knew the fundamentals. I mean, that the old style 80s frame where you can bolt anything onto it, the bulletproof reliability and the great handling of the bike at a fundamental level. This bike, you know, really stretches out the spectrum from really ultra hardcore, you know, Mount Kilimanjaro, you know, adventures, right down to the person who just wants to go and buy a packet of chips, you know, at the local shop. This bike is a giant slayer in terms of our adventure riding sport. And look, I think that's a great way to finish up, John, because you've contributed to getting this bike to reach its true potential. And, you know, you've accommodated a whole range of riders, from the shortest to the people who are just learning how to ride, right up to the hardcore adventurers. So congratulations once again on this. The only thing that's hindering success at the moment is Honda haven't been able to make enough of these things for the demand. I've never known a bike that has had under so much demand. And congratulations, Honda, for that. And look, you know, don't be too sensitive about us criticizing the suspension, because it's certainly, apart from that, it's a cracking bike.
Yeah, I think, you know, apart from the suspension, Dave, they've nailed it, and it's going to be around for a long time. You know,
it's a giant slayer. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the more people that ride it, they wouldn't dismiss it as a small bike. You know, I'm traveling around Spain and Portugal, you know, a week, 10 days at a time, and we're doing 1,800k a week on some really gnarly trails, and it's really good fun. You know, there's no way I'd want a bigger bike on a lot of the trails that we're riding.
Well, we're gonna take the bike. Clubby and I decided the other day, now with its ground clearance and everything, we're going to take the bike to a place called Cut Rock, and it'd be similar to some of that stuff in the Trans-American Trail, you know, with those big rock ledges, and yeah, not for any other reason, just to highlight this bike's versatility. You know, I can cruise along the freeway at 100, 110 k's easily, and at the same breath, you can jump up rock ledges. So really look forward to showcasing that. John Mitchinson, been a pleasure to see you again.
Yeah, let's look forward to the next 10 years, Dave. Eh?
Yeah, well, let's see if we can get things back on the road. There are a number of international adventures that you and I were going to do. We've kind of been stuck at home for a little while, but it's a very exciting time in these next couple of months. Yeah, it is, Dave. Yeah, it's certainly things will hopefully be moving along a bit now. Yeah. All right, mate. Righto. Thank you. See you later. See ya. Bye.